Hi everybody, my name is Spencer Harvey, and I'm here to tell you my self-narrative. My self-narrative has to do with having a sense of belonging. Here's my story. I moved to Palm City, Florida from Williamsburg, Virginia in my sophomore year of high school, and to say the transition was difficult would be an understatement. I didn't fit in at all with the beachy, close-knit group of people that had grown up together, and I felt like a complete outsider all throughout high school as my life seemed at a standstill, and my friends in Virginia were moving on with their lives without me. I had barely any friends in Florida, my parents became separated, and then they divorced my senior year of high school. All I wanted more than anything was to leave Florida behind and never return. It seemed like most of my problems had come from Florida, so I was done with the state. Things started to change when I got to the University of Florida, and then I joined a sorority, went out with tons of friends all the time, and met people outside of my sorority. I was always doing fun things. You would expect me to be happy all the time. Well, I was happy in front of people. But to my closest friends behind closed doors, I was miserable. I began to wonder if I belonged anywhere, because I still didn't feel like I belonged in Florida. And if I did, where exactly I did belong. I was stressed, worried, and uncomfortable all the time, because people never understood my desire to graduate and leave Florida behind. They would ask me, where would you go? And I'd respond, anywhere. Maybe New York City, maybe Europe, wherever I figure out I belong. I'm just never coming back here. I'll figure it out one day. I spent many of my classes daydreaming, and other times I would just research all over Twitter and Instagram countries and places that I wanted to travel one day. But as much time as I spent looking online, the more time I thought about just how I'd have reached those places seemed, and I would wonder if I ever would get there. Fast forward to the summer following my sophomore year at UF, and I've arrived in London for studying abroad. And it was beyond my highest expectations. I was happy and I explored the city every chance I had. And yet, this isn't the moment I'm here to tell you about today. These are the moments prior to the trip that would change my outlook on the world forever. So a month into studying abroad, one of the girls on the program and I decided to travel somewhere we had never been before. We finally decided on Geneva, Switzerland, because we had heard of watches being made in Geneva and thought that was pretty cool. When we arrived in Geneva, I thought that was the most beautiful place in the entire world, and I still do. We ran around the city, we ate incredible food, and we saw all the sights. The second day of the trip, we decided to take a trip up the French mountain that overlooked Geneva. We took a bus about 15 minutes outside the city before riding an enclosed ski lift looking device to the top of the mountain. This mountain changed my outlook on life forever. We stepped off the lift and ran over to the edge of the grassy cliff, and I looked over the edge. Below us you could see the beautiful lake and city of Geneva, with mountains far off in the distance. I stretched my arms out on both sides and smiled. Standing there with my arms outstretched, I felt like I was on top of the world, and I felt like anything was truly possible. And here is actually a photo of me when I was on that mountain. All those daydreams of mine became realities, and all those far-off hopes became future goals. Standing so high up on a mountain is when most people would feel so tiny compared to the world. Most people talk about being tiny compared to the ocean, but I figured on a mountain this large, they would feel minuscule compared to the world. But for the first time in my life, I felt strong, and I felt confident in myself. I felt on top of the world. I realized I wasn't weird for having dreams of exploring the world, and never quite settling down. I realized that I could do anything I set my mind to, and I believe no dream was ever too large to accomplish. It's amazing how one little last-minute trip has changed my life so much. Later on that day, I purchased this necklace in Geneva, so I'd never forget that experience, and I wear it all the time. At the end of the summer, everyone was talking about their experiences and their next career moves. I asked people who lived in my flat what their plans were. But to my surprise, everyone I spoke to said they were planning on settling down in Florida, but were happy they'd experienced the summer in Europe. When they'd ask me the same question, I'd respond, oh, I'll be back. Because for every place I traveled, I realized about 20 more places I wanted to travel. For every city I saw in each country, there were more and more cities I desired to see. And for every culture I experienced, the more cultures I wanted to experience. What can I say? My heart now belongs to the world, and I can't wait to spend my life traveling it, living all over, and being a leader all across it. That sense of belonging has shaped me to be more interested in others' lives and backgrounds. It's driven me to be more interested in other cultures and learn about business customs in other countries. I plan to travel the world and work with people from all over, and I would never have been that confident without that sense of belonging I found on top of that mountain. If you had told 16-year-old me that, okay, she didn't belong in Florida, but there was an entire rest of the world full of continents, countries, mountains, lakes, and people she'd fall in love with, she'd tell you that you were crazy, and that was even beyond her own dreams. Well, sometimes dreams become reality, and in my case, my dream did. I belong to the world.